And welcome to the 5th episode of the 2nd season of My Dog Will Eat My Face. As you can surely tell by the sound of my voice, I am not doing very well. And I wanted to keep this as brief as possible because it's very painful to talk. But the purpose for today's podcast will merely be to provide a health update to those who visit this to get health updates, primarily family, friends, people that are close to me, obviously in real life. They want to know how I'm doing. And this is a nice way for me to give one update as opposed to like 40. So, that is what I'm going to talk about today, as opposed to any other planned topic. So, I apologize in advance. But, as you can tell, nature had different plans for me. And it's still ongoing. So, this day, the topic will merely be a health update for those listeners who care to listen. So, first of all, let me immediately say that my missing podcast was not because I was on vacation this last week. No, I was not at some beach or resort or taking it easy or just a break from podcasting. Well, I guess technically I was taking a break from podcasting among many other things. I was hurting pretty bad physically. So it was no vacation at all. It was a few grueling days that are still obviously lingering with me today. So I beg your forgiveness for missing last week's podcast and for how I sound this week. But anyway, last week for me was rather terrible. I was literally in bed almost non-stop, I'll say, for 3 full days. I would only get up to go to the bathroom and to maybe get a little something to eat. Other than that, I'd crawl back into bed and I'd fall right back to sleep. I didn't have to take any sleep medications or anything like that because I just kept falling back asleep. Every time I try to go back to bed. And that's where I was. I was pretty much just lying in bed feeling miserable. And honestly, it really was some of the most miserable days yet. I felt incredibly weak. I felt short of breath, even with my oxygen on. And my legs would shake if I stood, and many other awful symptoms. I really don't want to get into them all, but needless to say, I was hurting pretty bad for the course of about 3 days, maybe a little more, 4. And still, like I said, it can still be heard. It's still lingering with me. And I wouldn't say that this was the result of a bug, though. I'm pretty certain that this is the result of my congestive heart failure. And my weak heart causing these issues. When I talked to my nurse about it, that's what she said. At least she said, from what I'm describing, it all comes back to the heart and how weak the heart is and how much weaker it's getting. So I probably have more of this type of an experience to look forward to. So, yeah, with the heart failing as it is and not able to even keep me awake for a day, I'm sorry, I was not able to produce a podcast whatsoever. I had planned for some topics this week, but still, as you can hear in my voice, I am still not doing too great, and it hurts quite a bit just to talk. So I'm just going to keep today's podcast short and very sweet. I hope you don't mind, my good listener, but that's just the way it's going to go. And for those of you wondering, I'm facing continuing symptoms today of shortness of breath. Even if I'm on a full-blown blast of home oxygen, I get confused very easily. My cognitive ability is quite lackluster, honestly. And there's been no fever, which is, I guess, good. So that's one good thing. No fever. But there's also been a ton of pain in my legs and my feet, mainly from the edema swelling in those areas. Usually they would be the best in the morning, or relatively, sometimes even non-existent in the morning, because I just got up and I technically had my feet up all night. But during the course of this event, the first I got out of bed, I would look down, my legs and my feet were just seriously swollen. Just, again, with the edema. And that's just because from the heart being too weak to pump the blood back towards the heart and return it. So what I do is I kind of do my own treatment, edema treatment, where I sit on the bed and I kind of pull my legs up, or one leg at a time. I would pull one leg up at a time and apply pressure, reverse pressure, backwards towards the heart from just next to the toes all the way up through to the knee. And it can be actually very painful to do it, very painful, because you're pushing a ton of blood through what are otherwise very small capillaries that are not meant to handle that kind of blood flow. But I would do that to myself as best as I could. I wish I had someone else to do it. I seriously wish someone else would do it for me. Because that's just one of the banes of my existence. I would seriously kill for just, I don't even care who it is, some stranger, some mass murderer, I don't even care who comes over and gives me an edema rub every day. I would just be thrilled. But when it gets this bad, I try to do my own, and that does help a little bit. And that's something I've been doing. The only other thing I've been doing is resting. With shortness of breath, or I'm just standing, I don't have much else to do. I mean, I noticed it a little while back where I was just standing in the kitchen doing something pretty light, and I noticed that I was breathing heavily, that I was short of breath with the oxygen on. So I could tell that things were worse for me on that day for whatever reason. I hope it's not a new normal. I hope I'm not like this every day. I doubt I will be. But I think just my illnesses have definitely taken a strong appearance. Have given me a little forget-me-not to their nature. So that's unfortunately just what I'm facing with right now with the congestive heart failure. And it might not sound like it, but it is getting better. I am not entirely in bed every day. That's a plus. I know I sound terrible, but I am breathing okay. And overall, there actually is some good improvement from where it was. Might not sound like it, but I promise you there's been some improvement. That's pretty much all I'm going to have for you guys this week. Just that little health update, because it is extremely painful for me to talk. So, with all that said, my friends, comrades, and colleagues, I am going to keep this podcast short and sweet and cut it off early so I can hopefully at least recover my voice. Losing your voice is a really lousy thing when you are a podcast producer. It's just, man, it's brutal. It is brutal. But, oh well, it is what it is. And I hope to touch base on some more substantial topics next week and talk to you about something else other than just a very brief health update. Hopefully I get past this. And, well, if I don't, well, I guess I'll still sound like this, or you won't hear anything because I'll be dead. So, those are, I guess, the three options. Get past it, don't sound terrible, or die. That's it. So, let's all cheer for getting past it. Let's hope that's the case that comes. And no more physical surprises in the next couple weeks. But I do appreciate your listenership. If you've actually made it this far hearing my voice as bad as it is, you are a real trooper, and I thank you intensely from the bottom of my heart for giving your listenership to this podcast. If you've made it this far, you are a very good person. You can pat yourself on the back. You are a very good person. I don't care if you sell poison milk to school children. I'll still say you're a good person. Anyway, with all that, I'm just going to have to remind you to make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You turn on notifications so when I come back and produce hopefully a podcast that's not just sounding like a zombie giving a straight message, you'd be aware of it. So yeah, turn on those notifications so you're aware of future podcasts that will hopefully be much, much better. With that, I'm just going to have to say ciao for now.